Everyone, how are we all doing? Welcome to Pommyinoz, and today what we're doing is we're doing our weekly tip-in. It's been going a little bit come see, come sa, as they say in French. It hasn't been spectacular, but it has by no means been a disaster. And we're going to try and pick some winners. If you are new around here, please like and subscribe to the channel. It does mean the world to me. It really helps us out. We're just about to crack 250. If we could smash 300 with 10 days left of this month, that would be grouse, as they say in the Southern Hemisphere. So obviously we've got some real packed games of football, and it looks like we're going to have a complete AFL Footy-Thon coming up over the next 4 weeks, which is absolutely amazing for someone like me who is enjoying having a kind of EPL style AFL season where we have games almost continually. It's what I'm used to. It doesn't help the relationships out, but it is good. So the first game is obviously on the Thursday. We've got Gold Coast versus the Doggies at Metricon. Now, obviously the Doggies coming off a resounding 42-point win last week. And the Gold Coast Suns, they continue to impress. A tough, hard-fought victory versus the Sydney Swans. They won by 32. Now, this is like one of them games that styles make fights. Gold Coast have really impressed me this year. They're really playing a real positive brand. You can see that they come out from the opening bounce and really look to impose themselves on the game very early doors. The Doggies, on the other hand, you would have thought shorter quarters would suit them. They do play a very attacking brand, and 2020 has shown us teams that start well and teams that do play a very positive brand are genuinely getting the chocolates at the end of the week. And it's going to be a really interesting game, this. I know the Gold Coast have got probably the shorter turnaround of the two teams moving forward, so teams will have an eye on resting players. That being said though, Gold Coast side is fairly young, as is the Doggies, so I don't expect to see too many changes. On this one though, I think the Doggies have found their straps, and I'm going to back the Doggies here by 14 to get the job done. I think it should be a ripping game though, and it's a game that I'm really excited about. It's good for the AFL that we're talking about Gold Coast in the terms of I'm excited to watch them, where before it was kind of like watching a car crash. It wasn't very good. They are really playing well, and I do wish Gold Coast the best. It's good for the AFL competition if they're strong. Then on Friday night at 7:50 we've got GWS versus the Tigers, and that's at Giants Stadium. Now the Giants came off a disappointing loss by 20 to Brisbane Lions, and the Tigers, obviously, as we know, Dusty had a bit of a day out. That 45 kick, probably my favourite moment of 2020 so far. And they had a 54-point win, and it was a real impressive one against North Melbourne. And I think what impressed me the most was that the back line is looking really solid, and there is a lot of players to come back into that Tigers team. For me, the Tigers are starting to just hit their motions, and I have a feeling that with the season being what it is, the 8 doesn't really matter in what position you're in, because it doesn't look like Melbourne teams are going to get too much of a home advantage in the final series. I'd imagine that a lot of the Melbourne sides have got that in the mind, which really does help out with squad rotation. That being said, I think this should be a great game. I think GWS, they're starting to play a bit well as well. It's on paper, this should be the grand final we wanted, because both of them, you would say, are probably around the same level. I am going to tip the Tigers though here. I think they'll win by 18 points. I think it'll be a great game though, and it's one that I'm super excited about seeing. I think Thursday and Friday night footy is stellar. And then Saturday, I don't know how we've been conned into this, but we've got the afternoon slot, 1:05 Kangaroos versus the Blues at Gabba. Now, this is probably a home game for Carlton. We know the Gabba crowd, the Queensland's fraternity of the Carlton Bluebaggers, has been absolutely on fire, making a lot of noise and making it feel kind of like an MCG type atmosphere for the boys. We know North came off a real bitterly disappointing 54-point loss to Richmond, and obviously, as you know, Carlton, we lost by a kick of the siren from a moment of Robbie Gray magic against Port. I think form will tell you that Carlton should win this game. I think when you look at the statistics, you look at how we play, I really do think that Carlton have got the eggs on North this year. I know statistically North Melbourne usually were their whipping boys, but I feel like tides are turning, and 2020 is a year of topsy-turviness. I can't see Carlton losing this one. I'm very firm on that one. I think the North will play a lot better than they have done the last couple of weeks, but with only Cuddington to come in, I just don't think they've got enough. You look at their statistics, it's not something that Carlton should be worried about. It is obviously a bogey team of ours, but I predict Carlton will win this one by 20, and we'll be back rocking and rolling, ready for Hawthorn the week after. Then in the Arvo, 3:35, we've got Sydney versus the Hawks. Now, both of these sides, this would be like the lacklustre cup at the moment. Sydney were horrendous going forward against Gold Coast. They lost by 32, and then the Hawks, they just look like a shell of who they are. They lost by 43 points to the Demons, albeit the Demons did play well. I think on paper this game could be a great game, because genuinely when you've got two out of form teams going head to head, usually they present as a feast, and I do think it's going to be a topsy-turvy type game, a seesaw type game. But I'm going to stick with Sydney this. I think the home ground advantage. I do think the Hawks are missing something. I can't quite see what it is. But in this COVID type affected season, adaptability and morale is a big one. And I just think form is temporary, class is permanent. But I think Sydney will get the job done here. Then in the evening, we've got Port versus St Kilda at the Adelaide Oval. And that's 7:40 if you're a Melburnian like myself. And Port are flying high. They're playing absolutely wonderful football at the moment. Big shout out to Frizy92. He's a Port fan. He watches the channel. Really enjoyed your feedback from the Port game. Well done to you as well. That was a good win for you guys. And although it wasn't a polished performance versus us, it was that moment of class. It was almost like a basketball play, that last 2 minutes for them. Very, very efficient and did very well to win a tight game. Saints, on the other hand, they made hard work of Adelaide. I watched that game, but then in the fourth quarter, they really did run away with it. A lot of talent there. Ratton's side, though, we do know struggle away from home. They did get the win last week. I just think against Port, it's a destiny too far. Port at home, it's a much tougher task. And I think Port will get this win by 17 points and continue their march on top of the ladder. And then Sunday, 1:05, Adelaide Crows versus the Bombers. And obviously that is at Adelaide Oval. And Essendon were woeful last time out against the Doggies. They went down by 42. They really didn't offer much going forward, offer much going in the midfield. And it presents a chance really against a very weak Adelaide side to move back into the winner's circle. Adelaide went down fighting. They did show a bit in that late in the third, in the fourth. But for me, it's just not enough. They really do look bad. And trust me, as a Carlton fan living in 2018, if I say you're bad, I'm probably spot on. I think Essendon should get the job done quite easily here. And I think Essendon will win by 32. And being a blue bagger, pains me to say it. Then 3:35, we've got the Eagles versus the Pies. Now, this game should be an absolute ripper. It's the replay of the granny a couple of years ago with Dom Sheed kicking that late one. Two good friends of the channel, Swoop Luke versus True Footy. It's a tough one because they're both great guys, and where my loyalties lie is tough. But I mean, West Coast for me are really hitting their straps. They won the derby quite comfortably in the end. They did look, for me, they're starting to get that ball movement back. They're starting to hit targets by foot. And I think they've got another gear to reach. In my opinion, I still think, even though they're scratching at the surface of their best, still think they've got another gear to go. Pies, on the other hand, they were quite dominant against Geelong. They really did dominate that game. They've had a nice 10-day break as well. A lot going on outside the camp as well. But I just can't see the Eagles losing here. I know they are playing good footy, Pies. Let's not take that away from them. They are playing good footy and they are looking like they're controlling the ball down the back well, which is how you usually beat the Eagles. But I think with a home crowd, I think the Eagles will get the job done by 9 points. Should be a ripper though. Then at 6:10, we've got the D's versus the Lions at Metricon. Now the Lions dominated last week against a resurgent GWS side, showing heart, intensity, playing their brand of football and really putting the brakes on any talk of GWS getting the win that game. Melbourne, on the other hand, they put away a lacklustre Hawthorn, but it's quite hard to read in, was there anything into that, because the Hawks have looked really bad. They are starting to turn a corner though, in my opinion, the D's, and they are starting to play a good brand of football, and they're putting away this like 12 months of just indecision that they've had. But I do feel this will be a bridge too far. I do think that this should be a minimum of 3-goal victory to the Brisbane Lions. I'm tipping them by 21 points, the Lions, to get the job done. And then on Monday, how good is it that we have football just nearly 7 days here? Monday, 8:10, we've got the Freo Dockers versus Geelong. Now, Freo did not score heavily against the Eagles, but for me, they made it a contest. And if you take it to the fact they had no fife, they did really well in and around the ball, in and around the contest. Players like Chera, players like Sarong are really starting to show a bit for them. And it's looking quite exciting. If you were a Freo fan, you'd be excited about this because they look like they've got the talent. Brayshaw's really going to another level at the minute as well. It's a really exciting time. I'm hearing that Fife isn't back for this, and that does affect where I think, because I actually do think if they had Fife, they'd win this. Don't know why, I've just got a feeling it's going to be a tight game though. The Cats, on the other hand, they were very ineffective against the Pies, and it's kind of hot and cold at the minute for the Cats. They looked outplayed all around the ground for me, and we're getting to the point now where losses can kibosh your year. So that being said, with Fife being out, I do think this will just be a game too far for Freo. I think it'll be a real tight game though, and a real classic game. I'm going to tip by 12, the Cats on this one. That is my tips for this week. Let me know how you're getting on your tipping league. I'd love to know who you guys tipping. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the games. There's some real good games coming up in the next 2 weeks, and I'm super excited. I'll see you next time. Don't see you through the week. See you through the window. Pom out.